Okay, that's
Done. Yeah, go.
Hello, welcome to a new series of podcasts called IBavard. Now, I'd like to introduce the members. I am Joshua Wong from.
I am Jonathan Mankinhang from 10G from the pre-IB program organized by the Diocesan Boys School.
I'm Thomas Law from grade 10L, also from Diocesan Boys School pre-IB Baccalaureate program.
I can't hear you, Ryan.
I can't.
And I'm
What's your name, Ryan?
and I'm Ran Chan from class 10L, also from Diocesan Boys School.
I'm Oscar Choi from 10L.
And I'm Jonathan Chung.
Right. So let's begin our discussion. All right. The first topic we're going to talk about is the topic of anti-vax. All right. So let me give a quick description of what's going on right now. So basically, the anti-vax movement is a loosely organized conspiracy theorist subculture, according to the Rational Wiki. All right, so what does that mean? So basically, it means that a group of moms in America, so predominantly white moms, they read off the internet that vaccines cause autism, and therefore they refuse to vaccine their children, which could lead to serious consequences, such as these children dying at a younger age than they are expected to. All right. So, what opinions do we have on this matter? Well, personally, I think that it's just stupid because there has been decades and decades of medical research done on this specific topic, and these research have been done to benefit the human race by creating various vaccines to defend the human body against various diseases. But these parents decide not to vaccine their children based on perhaps some random shady site they find on the internet. Then they automatically think that these vaccines are worthless and useless and cause autism, and therefore they endanger their children's life. All right, so what do y'all want to say about
Yeah,
this?
I definitely have to agree with John, man. It's really stupid, really. Anti-vaccination has been proven to be false time and time over again. Yeah, it's just like the flat earth theory. Every time they come up with some weird excuses on why it's bad or why vaccination isn't going to help, how almond milk is going to save the whole world. But honestly, if you look at the facts, nothing has been done, and every kind of argument has been proving that vaccination is good. So, well, I don't know what's going to happen now since the white mums are doing that. Well, I guess people die stupid, and if they keep on doing the anti-vaccination movement, perhaps maybe the world will be smarter.
Well,
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
It's called natural selection.
I'm also against the idea of anti-vax. Well, just as John Mann have said, like these vaccines are scientifically proven to be useful and have saved many lives. Just by reading something off a shady site doesn't is not able and is not valid enough to say that anti-vax is not good. I think government should have execute some educational programs to make correct and educate these white moms and give them the correct idea of what vaccines are and why vaccines are important to their children and why they should use vaccines and why they should not join the anti-vax movement.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
just
the
a quick-
anti-vax movement.
Just a quick disclaimer. Sorry, Ryan. I just
cool.
said that the anti-vax movement relates to autism, right? But actually, it relates to every kind of disease. So there, you can find moms saying that vaccines cause autism. Perhaps there are moms saying that vaccines causes cancer, or maybe even herpes. Okay, let's move on.
However,
Alright.
the main message is that anti-vax is really just a rubbish topic. Because
It's not quite a rubbish topic. It's like there are many people supporting the whole anti-vax. Like there are even famous actress, and there's a society called Anti-Vaccination Society of America, Association of American. Like there are a lot of societies supporting this whole theory, which is completely BS.
Well, I mean, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theory widely circulated by those who have lacking in medical knowledge, especially advanced medical knowledge. So, this can reflect on why the general populace of white moms who support the anti-vaccination are doing their own stuff. And also, I like to point out that anti-vaccination is is just a conspiracy theory that goes against a groundbreaking development of medical knowledge. I mean, the vaccination saved a lot of people since its own invention, and it has been widely developed and circulated. At first, it wasn't that affordable, but now everybody is receiving vaccination because the government has been promoting it because it's useful. And I don't understand why people are saying that it's a bad thing. I mean, for decades we have been using it already.
Right. Okay. So I think the whole topic can be basically like summarized as stupidity and like blindly believing in information they find on the internet.
Yes, I
Yeah,
completely
definitely.
agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's move on to a more interesting topic where we can actually have different viewpoints and discuss. All right. So how about we go with the topic of feminism. All right. Feminism is definitely a controversial topic. All right, but one thing I think we have to make clear is that many people think that the type of feminism they find on the internet, perhaps on like Reddit's front page, represents the whole feminist movement. So what I'm talking about is like the general stereotype of feminists, like women with red hair, with glasses, and are typically more bigger in size. Well, that's completely not true. There are many different types of feminism, and I think we need to recognize that we cannot generalize. We cannot see the whole group, the whole feminist movement as simply as radicals, because it's not. There are many different kinds of feminists out there that are, some are doing good stuff, some are doing bad stuff.
They're not.
Yeah, I think we have to.
They're not different kind of feminism. It's just that, like, supposedly feminism should be going for the equality of the two sexes, but like just as Jonathan mentioned, the red hair one is like it's going not for the equality, it's going for the female supremacy. So there's actually two types.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose what you're trying to say is that feminism, there's the normal kind of feminism and there's an extreme kind of feminism, which actually pushes the morality of the topic over the edge. So in my opinion, I do support normal feminism, which is fighting for female rights with equal to male rights. I believe that's a very noble cause.
Well, I mean, for feminism, I don't disagree with feminism. I think it's important that we respect women like we respect men. But when it just goes to the far end, when it's like riots, when it's just irresponsible behavior, when it's just radical movements and it's everywhere on the internet, it's just not responsible. It's not a responsible behavior for advocating feminism, and that's what we're facing here right now: extreme feminism. And we're also, and since they're so obviously present, we're all going to stereotype extreme feminism as feminism, and this is what is happening right now.
Yeah, I suppose that's because the news is always so depressing, and they only report those stuff instead of normal feminism.
Okay, so what I think about feminism, well, as just we have said, we have recognized two types of feminism. In my opinion, I would support the normal type of feminism. Like, we should recognize people and respect people according to their maybe contribution or to their in society. Well, women as well as men can do equally and fair amount of contribution, as they do not have any anything to overlap or maybe like overpower each other. And we should respect women as they also can be more as they can also be really useful to the society. But for the extreme type of feminism, which they go for feminist supremacy, I will not support those kinds, as I think we should treat all gender, all race, and all ages equal in our society.
Well, now I have a question on the proposal. We'll pretty much state our stance of feminism and the difference between feminism and extreme feminism.
Oscar, I think you should check the Discord chat, Oscar.
Alright, let's move on.
Please continue.
Okay, now I'd like to talk about my viewpoints. I think that the thought of feminism is good, but I'm saying that the actions are actually pretty unjustifiable, made by radical people. There is a video online that is very viral about a female kicking a sign about abortion because this person wanted to talk about abortion and wanted to raise awareness of it, but the feminists thought that it was extremely triggering to her and started kicking it, even though it had done nothing wrong. So yeah, basically the thought of it is nice. I mean, I agree that females have been oppressed in society for a long time, but the actions that they are doing in order to take this kind of thought away is unjustifiable and should be deemed inappropriate.
Right. I think for every single thing in the world, there is a line that has to be respected. So if you do something that is more extreme than this line, then the whole thing just becomes bad, no matter how good your causes are. So like a good analogy for this would be like drinking water. Well, drinking water is a very good thing for your body, but if you drink too much of it, you get poisoning. So as it's like a saying we have here in Cantonese, it's "mat kek bi fan," right? So like we have to recognize the boundaries of everything. But personally, y'all are saying that like normal feminists, so the general type of feminists are respectable. Okay, so you know what? Let me propose a topic to discuss about. So these types of feminists always suggest that there's a wage gap. Like okay, so that so in the workforce, women are more or less respected than men, and they have a harder time in the workforce. Do y'all think that this is necessarily true?
I think that this is not necessarily true.
Well, I mean, the pay gap isn't really that obvious, because if you check like government records, it's not really that significant. And also, if we're talking about gender pay gaps, why don't you also focus on racial pay gaps, which is like more significant than gender pay gaps right now?
I don't like for the gender equality. Like there's a Me Too movement, which is like entirely based on like there are less female directors than male, like by a large number. So I think that is true in some industries, and there like for Me Too movement is a movement against sexual harassment, sexual assault, which actually happens in those industries. So I think that it will be true for some cases. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that there is a power gap between the two genders, because look at the president, look at the Congress of America, look at the presidency. There are a lot of examples that have been existent throughout history of for in like modern history, that females are getting more and more important jobs. Look at Hong Kong, for example, our own local land. Even our chief executive this term is a female. What can you say about the power gap between genders when there is already a clear signal that the power gap has been reducing quite a bit since male were dominant in politics?
Right. For the wage gap, well, I acknowledge that there is indeed a difference between the average pay men receive and women receive. Well, that's because it's actually proven by research done by various like companies. So it's very hard to like disregard actual pieces of research done. But I think
I'm just saying that it's not significant.
Yeah, I know. But I think we should look at the reasoning behind this. Yes, I acknowledge that there was indeed a power gap between women and men in the past, like in perhaps the 70s and 80s. And that has caused the wage gap to appear. Like perhaps it still has lingering effects on today's workforce. But the wage gap and the power gap is two different concepts, right? So is there really... are women really at a disadvantage right now? Because, well, what I'm going to say is perhaps going to be a little controversial, but what I have been seeing on various forums, like, for example, perhaps Reddit or our own, like, LIHKG, is that that a woman may have a certain advantage in the workforce, especially with male bosses, because as we know, most males are attracted to women, and perhaps they will develop a special liking towards women, and therefore these women get to have a higher chance of like rising up the ranks. So, and furthermore, stepping out of the workforce, like John Chung talked about the Me Too movement. Well, I think this movement is actually perhaps, well, it's a good thing that women receive courage to speak up about their experiences of sexual harassment by other men. But at the same time, there are many women that are going to take advantage of this to make up false claims against men they don't like and just ruin their reputation and their career, because all it takes is one tweet on Twitter and say that, oh, this guy raped me when I was 10, and boom, his reputation is done. It's well, obviously he has absolute right to disprove the claim, and it is the right of the accuser to prove that the accused has done something wrong. But in the real world, it does not do like that. It does not work like that, because people are just gonna believe in it blindly, and even if it turns out to be not true, then well, that person's life is still ruined. So what I'm just saying is, while I fully agree that men should be equal to females in the current world, but I'm just saying that sometimes in certain situations, feminists often say that men have an advantage over females, but it may actually be the complete opposite. It may actually be that women have the advantage over men.
Well, I mean, you're talking about special cases here, John. You're talking about how women are actually going to use the movement to sprout false claims towards the male gender. But I think that these are most special cases. Humane females wouldn't actually try and do this, because it would be way too horrible in their mind, and it would be very guilty and bad if other people find out, which is what happens in most cases. However, I think that it is true that what John Man said about the reputation thing is because most people, especially on the internet, are very blind believers of some things. You can see that with the anti-vaccination movements just now, and I think that the reputation will not come back even after it is disproved. This can be seen with some YouTubers where large YouTubers have tweeted about other YouTubers raping either their girlfriend or I'm not sure, somebody related to them, and then their reputation is lost and they've lost all their subscribers, which is a horrible thing, because it's basically how they get to live.
Oh yes, I agree with Joshua, how what John said was kind of like the minority of society. But going back to the power gap and wage gap thing, I do think that the power gap is almost non-existent between men and women. The wage gap, like I also agree on John Man's stance on how there might be a lingering effect. But I think that is also improving when as society goes.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so let's move on to the next topic and talk about abortion. So there's two sects in abortion. So like the side where it supports abortion and the side which does not, and each have his own reasons. And so in my opinion, I support abortion because people have a choice about whether they want the baby or not, because it may be accidental, maybe they were raped, or maybe in even some cases the baby may have disabilities. So I think abortion, reasonable abortion should be allowed.
Yes, I fully agree that abortion should be made legal in all places. But yes, I also agree that only reasonable abortion should be allowed. So what does that mean? I believe that the government should monitor. So I believe that every parent who would like to carry out an abortion, not parent, like every carrier of a fetus who would like to carry out an abortion should submit should submit an application to the government detailing their current situation and wait for a reply. So why do I want this to happen? Well, I agree with Oscar that there are many situations leading to the possible like accidentally having a baby. So like perhaps they may have been uncareful and did not put on like anti-pregnancy stuff, or perhaps the woman got raped. So it would be extremely unethical for her to keep the baby. So as I said, in situations like this, it would be definitely reasonable to have an abortion. But at the same time, in some other situations, I do not believe that abortion is ethical or should be made legal, such as perhaps the parents willingly wanted to make a baby, only to realize that they did not want that. Well, that's just unresponsible of them, because the fetus in their stomach, in the mother's stomach, is a life of itself and should be respected as well. So I believe it all depends on the certain situation, and it connects back to the point I said before about there's going to be a boundary for everything, right?
So in my opinion, I believe abortion should be made legal under special circumstances. Well, just now Oscar had made a few points which I found really important. And first, abortion should be made legal when when it reminds the mother of any, like, if she was raped, then it will be an unethical decision to let the mother have the baby, as it may made her remember the difficult times or the sad or the bad moments of the incident. And or for the second point, it will be like if the baby is born with any disabilities, that the baby may not be happy if may not have a happy life or a happy normal life when he was born. So I think abortion should be made legal when either the parent or the fetus will have had a bad life if the baby is born. So
yeah,
looking back to my point, so abortion should be made legal under special circumstances.
Well, I agree on your point. You can't actually decide if like the fetus, like when it grows into a child, a man, it will like have a bad life. You can't, like, if the mother's being raped, you can't say that, oh, if you're gonna keep the baby, you're gonna be sad. Let me kill that baby for you. The baby did nothing wrong. The baby is also innocent. Why are you killing the baby?
Well, I mean, and then it comes down to the choice of the mother. If the mother thinks that the environment is unsuitable for the child, for example, the mother has no ability to raise the child on her own, then it is her own choice to ensure the bestest of situations for the baby to be born in. And according to a case in 1973 in the U.S. Supreme Court, there's this case of Roe v. Wade, and it was decided on that the abortion gives a guarantee of certain areas or zones of privacy, and that this right to privacy is broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. So I think it all comes down to the sensible mother to decide on her child's fate, because she has all the rights in the world to make the best decision for her child.
Well, I don't think that she actually has all the right in the world. Like your own right should be decided by yourself, right? You can't like decide on others' fate. You can't just kill off a baby because you think that he maybe not have a good life. You can't do that.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have
regarding
to
your
disagree with. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disagree with John Chung right here. I think that it's the mother's responsibility to actually think about the future of the baby and and what's going to happen during the future of the baby after how it grows up. And I think that if it's not good enough for the baby, then I think that the mother has the right to choose whether or not they should actually abort the child and actually try and actually not have one. I think that if you're going to make the baby sad or not give it a good enough future. It's not going to happen. This is an argument to the quality of life. Yeah, and I could think that mothers should actually have a right on deciding whether or not they want to have an abortion.
All right, so I think it comes down to the line of whether we consider a fetus to be a living thing or not to be, because some people argue that well, life begins at conception. So well, in this case, I believe that John Chung definitely thinks that. That's why he says that unborn babies have a right to life. But on the other hand, some people think that well, a personhood, a fetus becomes a person when they leave the mother's womb. So I feel like the debate boils down to these two sides. So if we do not consider the fetus to be a living thing inside the womb, then well, I wouldn't say you can just kill it off whether you wanted to, but it would be definitely justified in reasonable situations, like how we just mentioned. Like perhaps the baby is going to be born with abnormalities, or perhaps the baby is going to be born in an extremely disadvantaged situation, then well, that is gonna, well, I believe that the abortion of the fetus will be justified in these situations if we consider that the fetus is not a living being. But on the other hand, if we consider the fetus to be a living being inside the womb of the mother, then well, we could you could say that the abortion would be murder. And like just like we in Chinese lesson last year, we talked about a ya sei hao gu xi, wai mo ma yi. That is exactly the case. Like all of us were laughing at that story, and well, that's because we all agree on the fact that it is ridiculous to kill a baby just because they were in poverty. So yeah, basically that's it.
Well, according to some, I'm sorry, you can go first.
No, you can continue. You can continue.
All right. So according to some pro-life supporters, they say that the baby cannot make logical decisions or just decisions about their own life, and they're just like murdered in their own sleep without any consent of themselves. But I'd like to point out that this is exactly why the decision should be given to the mother. The child does not have any decision of his own. He does not know what's going on outside the womb. It does not. It cannot think logically, nor it can actually think what's best for itself. So therefore, I think like John says, it comes down to the mother's choice and the mother's decision for the child.
Well, regarding that topic, although you say that the fetus can't make a decision for itself, that's certainly true. But I do not agree on the point that you say the mother can make the best decision for the fetus, because let's take for example the mother is raped, and under such psychological a burden, will she be able to make the best decision for the fetus in that case?
Well, you can never truly have the best decision for others' life, but like so yeah, I think that you should never you should never have another decision for
Okay,
for your
sorry,
child.
I should not be laughing.
Yeah, anyone?
All right, anyone want to say any more? Right. Okay, so
Let's
basically
move on to our topic, to another topic, shall we?
Okay, let's move on to another topic. All right, sorry. We shouldn't be laughing.
All right. What's our next topic? All right. Are we going to talk about race?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So racism.
Okay, since we are on in the same race, not advised to talk about racism.
Or I believe that racism is a very one-sided topic, and well, if you say that racism is justifiable, then you're morally bad. So, well, I don't think anyone is morally bad here. Or, okay, to put it another way, I don't think anyone wants to expose that they are morally bad in front of our advisors. So I guess let's just
like basically everyone is a bit racist, a bit of a racist.
I mean, some psychologists prove that it's in our genes. Like we automatically discriminate those who aren't. And
Yes, I very much agree with that.
those don't have the same nationality than us.
Yes, I really I agree with Ryan's point. Well, racism is everywhere. Like we would all, we as Hong Kong students, we always laugh at how or like we always ridicule how like Americans are like have racism between them, like how white are racist against black and vice versa, and we find that funny. But in this case, actually, I think everyone has a little bit of racism in them, and that also includes like how us are. How many of Hong Kong citizens are racist against Chinese mainlanders, and how Japanese are racist against maybe like Hong Kong or Chinese tourists. And
you do know what racist is, right? Racist is towards a race.
Yes,
it's not towards a country.
I think it's no about what I want to. What the point I want to make is people naturally want to distinguish the other race from themselves and make and by making them by putting the race above others to gain self-esteem.
I totally agree.
According to Google, the definition of racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. I mean, this is inevitable because we as humans all have a sense of superiority. I mean, against those who are different than us. So I guess racism cannot be avoided, but surely we can educate people around us to avoid racism most possible way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like racism is just how you see like others is different from you, and how you handle this information, how you express yourself to the other race. I think is something we can all try our best, like to treat them nicely or something, instead of ridiculing about the difference between us.
Right. Yes, because I think that it's like it's programmed in us. Like because well. I don't have any scientific reasoning for this, but I believe why we feel hostile towards other people with different skin color because like in the age of hunter gatherers, like very long time ago, like people of different. All right, okay, I'm not gonna say this because there's no scientific evidence for this, but all I'm trying to say is that well, sometimes we see posts online that say something like, "Oh, I'm black and this Asian dude keeps staring at me," or something like, "Oh, I'm black. I'm in China and all the people look at me." Well, they're racist. Well, let me tell you that. Well, okay, they may be racist, but you can't blame them for that because they don't see people of a black skin color always. So it's just like their natural instinct to look at you. So I don't think that qualifies as racism in modern terms. Do you get what I mean? So
yeah, I think it all comes down to how you express yourself in the situation where you see this difference. So if you express it in a very hostile way, that will be racism. But if you express it in a friendly way, that won't be racism instead.
Well, I don't see how you can be friendly and racism because it's a kind of discrimination, but.
No, I mean like between the difference. So like, for example, a white man and a yellow Asian. So they might see the difference between them, but if they express it hostilely, then that would be racism. But if it's not hostile, then that won't be racism. Do you get me?
Yes, I agree.
I understand you. And I think one of the ways to revolt racism is to have respect among people. I mean, we can all feel superior among different races, but all it comes down is to the respect between each other. I mean, I can feel like the Chinese are more superior than than the blacks, but I can still respect them and see them as a human. I can still understand. I can still understand the struggles, their rights, and I wouldn't really discriminate them in that way.
Well, I would
Right.
disagree that
I'm
Asians are
sorry.
superior to blacks, though.
No, he's just saying that's an example, as an
Oh, okay.
example.
Yeah, it's an example. I mean, I don't really like racism as an idea
Okay.
because
I
it's just bad.
misunderstood you. My bad.
But like your example
I'm sorry,
basically
I'd like to go to the washroom.
Okay.
All right.
Peace out.
Okay. All right. Let's move